Hello, my name is Alexsis Perrmann. I'm going to be doing your Tree Care 101 course today. I'm beginning. I apologize, I'm not super technologically savvy, but we're going to get through it together. So here's just some of my credentials. I'm going to make that small. I can do that, right? Yes, I can. I'll never get it back. So a little bit about me. I am the owner and lead arborist at a new small company based out of Cincinnati called Jackie Wood Brown's Maintenance and Consulting. I carry 3 associate's degrees in horticulture, landscape horticulture, sustainable horticulture, and turf grass management from Cincinnati State. I've competed in the National Collegiate Landscape Competition 3 times, and last year I won the whole thing. It was very exciting for me. It was a very good note to go out on. I would have been disappointed if it went any other way. I also placed first in their arboriculture event with my good friend, Matt. I'm an ISA certified arborist, TCIA certified tree care worker, ODA certified pesticide applicator for basically all those numbers mean forestry, grass, and landscape plants. I have my 30-hour OSHA certificate, and I volunteer at Heritage Acres Memorial Sanctuary. I've been doing that since 2020, and I'm currently in my internship phase with the Master Gardener Volunteers Program. So I be doing lots of stuff with plants. Trees are my passion, though, so that is why I'm here today teaching. So we'll start at the beginning. Your very first step in having a healthy tree is proper planting. People mess this up all the time. Professionals mess this up all the time. I've probably messed it up a time or two. That's okay. So you want to start by having your correct plant for the correct place. You don't want to plant anything invasive. Sometimes we don't know until it's too late that something is invasive, and I forgive you if you've done this. We don't want anything that is prone to excessive disease that you will later find intolerable that will require a large number of chemical inputs. Good examples, Colorado blue spruce. Highly susceptible to disease. It gets ugly. People want to treat it a whole bunch. It's more of a hassle than it's worth. Another really good example in recent history, it's not a tree, but boxwoods now get about 1 million different pests and diseases, and it's almost impossible to keep them pretty and groomed. You kind of just got to let them do whatever they want. But nobody does that because you get a boxwood because you want something that's shaped. You want to know if it's going to play well with other plants in your landscape. If you have a bunch of plants in your landscape that require full sun, you don't want to plant a tree right over top of them. If you have a tree planted somewhere, you don't want to plant other things near it that are going to take away from its water and nutrient sources. We want to be mindful in where we plant. You want to keep in mind whether or not you are creating or contributing to a monoculture, not just in your own landscape, but in your neighborhood overall. Again, really good examples. We went a little cray-cray with the pear trees. Now they're proliferating everywhere. We've had situations where diseases come through, and if everything's a maple and something that impacts maple comes through, everybody's maples are getting wiped out. So you want to take a look at the things that are around you and try to diversify those environments. You also want to keep in mind how large something's going to get. We have all seen the southern magnolia planted directly on top of the house. That is too close. If you're within 20 feet of your house with a southern mag, once it matures, you're going to be too close. So just remember, your trees aren't going to be babies forever. Your next big step is going to be your root pruning and orientation. This is going to be the best time to avoid hurtling roots later. When you go to plant your tree, take a look at that root ball, prune away. Like, you can be more aggressive than you think. And once you've taken out all of the excess that you need to take out, you want to spread those roots into like a wagon wheel orientation so that they're evenly distributed to best support your tree as it grows. Proper planting depth. This is the one that people, I think, really struggle with the most because it's really kind of hard to be sure sometimes. But if you go too high, you're not going to anchor correctly, and your tree is going to fall over because it's not going to get its roots established at the depth that they need to be. If you go too low, you're going to suffocate your roots. and you're gonna make your tree susceptible to basal rots. And that is when fungus or bacteria get trapped against the stem, and they eventually will work their way into the stem and create a really weak point right at that base. Do not amend the plant hole. I know that there seems to be a lot of debate about this, but there's research that suggests that if you amend the plant hole, what you're going to do is make the roots favor a girdling pattern because they're going to go after those easy nutrients rather than stretching out to try to find those nutrients. And you run into drainage issues sometimes. I've seen stuff about those like layering ideas of like gravel, sand, whatever. You're creating a tension interface with the water where it will not drain properly. And finally, mulch. There is such a thing as too much. You can have too much. You need less than you think, and you don't want it to go all the way to the base of the tree. Again, that goes back to that issue with planting depth. If you have stuff right against your stem, you are opening it up to basal rots. You're opening it up to a perfect environment for fungus and bacteria. Really, mulch is most beneficial if you're using it to retain water out near the drip line, which is kind of where your tree canopy ends. That's where your tree is collecting most of its water. If I'm talking too fast, somebody tell me to slow. Next, we have early tree care. You want to do deep and frequent waterings while your roots establish, and that's going to be for the first couple of years. My personal hot take, don't use the watering bags. It takes just as much time to just stand there and put the water directly into the ground as it does to fill the watering bag. And when you have the watering bags around the trunk of the tree, it is preventing necessary sun exposure for the correct development of your tree's trunk. And you are again creating that moisture trap right against the trunk that leads to those fungal and bacterial exposures. You want to trust the process. All right. Don't get scared because you don't think your tree is growing enough above the ground for the first few years. Don't go in and try to amend it with any kind of nutrients for the first few years. It's focusing on establishing its root base, and it needs to have that established root base to support the crown before the crown can really grow out. If you do kind of like get a little overexcited, get a little too nervous and make those amendments, you can create a lot of top weight without enough support at the bottom. And that's where you get that lever effect in the wind that knocks your trees over. Training pruning, I think, is also something that is very important to do. Go in early. The earlier you start training that tree to grow in the direction that you want it to grow, the better. It'll recover from the wounds faster. You don't have to make as big of cuts. It's also honestly safer for the person doing the pruning when it is a smaller tree than when it is a large tree, for reasons that I assume are obvious. And you can kind of see in those first few years, like if it's going to have a limb that's going to kind of overextend in a direction, or if it's growing towards your phone lines, electrical lines, like anything that you would be concerned about it interfering with later. And as far as dying and support systems, I personally think in most situations they are not necessary. If you are going to do it, you need to set a time limit for yourself. You need to say, I'm going to put in this support for this tree, but I'm going to take it out after a year, 2 years max. And you want to check regularly where you have it connected to the tree to make sure it's not girdling the trunk. So you can get girdling, you can also get trunk rub. And you want to leave room for your tree stem to move in those support systems because that's how it builds its strength for as it gets larger to support itself. It's almost like exercising to build muscles. Like it reacts to that wind movement, it reacts in storms, it reacts to the sun. Like you want to give it the opportunity to really build that strength. Scouting. Scouting is so easy and so integral, and you can do it while you're having your morning coffee. Go out, take a look at what's going on, check on your trees, check on all of your plants, but we're talking about trees today. After a storm, go out, look, see if anything's broken, see if your tree crown looks different, see if there's anything hanging up there that shouldn't be. Look for dieback. In the spring and the summer, if you notice that a section of the trunk of your or the section of the crown of your tree is not leafing out or flowering in the way that you have normally seen it or would expect it to, that is the time to like maybe like say something like, what's going on here? Is it a problem in the roots? Is it a problem in the crown? Is it a pest problem? What's happening with my tree? And you're going to want to look for signs and symptoms of pests. So these include things like boring holes, frass, which is that like little tiny sawdust looking stuff that insects leave behind. You're going to want to look for like dark blotches on your tree that maybe look wet or even like it's been like burnt. You're going to want to look for fungal activity. Just the earlier you can catch anything, the better chance you have of saving the tree. You're also going to want to raise your tolerance a little. Some stuff is kind of ugly, but not deadly. We were talking here for the folks at home a little earlier about lichen. If you think it's ugly, you are allowed to have that opinion. It is not hurting your tree. Same thing with some insects, or most insects really, like just because they're there doesn't mean they're causing harm. A lot of stuff on its own isn't likely to kill your tree. It's when you have these combination effects of poor water access, fungal activity, then you get a pest, and like it's usually multiple things that will really take a tree out. Definitely avoid the overuse of pesticides. They do not stay where you put them. You end up having runoff situations. They can have negative impacts on the insects that pollinate our plants. They can have negative impacts on the biomes in the soil around our plants. Just try to limit that as much as humanly possible. I'm a huge proponent of never using fungicides because they are not specific and they do kill good fungus. And we need good fungus. We need mycorrhizae for communication between plants underground. And once you use a fungicide, you're just destroying that aspect of that environment. And again, limit your fertilizers. We don't see as much of an issue with it down here in Southern Ohio. And it does tend to be more associated with being an agriculture problem. But everybody does contribute to that like fertilizer buildup, and it has negative impacts on our water sources. And again, it can have negative impacts on our plants. If you overuse fertilizer, you create an osmosis situation where your plants might not be able to get enough water because there's more salt in the ground and the water wants to go where the driest place is. Consult a reputable arborist in your ongoing care process. If you see something and you think, man, should I do something about that? Find a good reputable arborist. They will help you. If they are a good, well-known, established arborist, I would highly recommend finding somebody that's certified. They are not going to come out and just try to get the most money out of you. They genuinely want to help you. Always look into the company before you call. Find their website, find their social media, find reviews, find somebody who knows of them, who's worked with them. Get a second opinion. Don't just go off of the opinion of the first arborist you talk to. You wouldn't do that for a medical diagnosis for yourself. Don't do that for a medical diagnosis for your plants. If you think something is maybe a little bit off, or like your first arborist either seems to like under or overextend on like how stressed they seem to be about it, always get a second opinion. Nobody's going to be mad at you. And remember, you get what you pay for. You can, I don't know if everybody's heard of the triangle, the cheap, free, good, or the cheap, good, fast, sorry, triangle. You may have two. If they're cheap and good, it's going to take a while. If they're cheap and fast, they're probably not good. And then these are just some of my very strongly held opinions that, again, you don't have to agree with, but they're mine. Don't use fungicide. It doesn't only target bad fungus. It also targets very important funguses that we don't even necessarily understand the full implications of in our soil biomes. Inorganic soil amendments without doing soil testing. Please test your soil first. Don't just guess that it's a nitrogen issue. Don't just guess that you can get relatively cheap soil testing kits online to do your basic tests. You can send stuff out to your university extension office for here to the Ohio State University Extension Office if you have a big serious question. But have it analyzed before you start putting stuff in there, because you might actually be making your problem worse or just causing a whole new fun problem for yourself. And the information is available relatively easily. Pruning oak trees and ash trees during the active growth season is a huge no-no in my book. I would honestly probably at this point add maybe maples. Sometimes things need to be done. Sometimes we have emergencies. We live in an area where we get storms and storm damage, and we don't want to leave that hanging. But due to the way that trees release pheromones when they're cut, they can attract insect vectors that bring disease, or just insects themselves, like the emerald ash borer. Oak wilt is vectored by beetles as well, and they react to those pheromones when they smell them. And you can, again, be causing yourself just like a whole new problem. And then the use of watering bags. We talked about that. I hate them. I hate them. I think they do more harm than good. And they don't even actually save you any time. You have to stand there just as long. Yeah. If you would like to contact me, I thought I fixed this. You are welcome to take a photo, screenshot, whatever you need to of my contact information. If you ever have any more specific questions about tree care, again, very new business. I am currently waiting for my business cards to be done, but hopefully next time I come out for Tree Care 201, I will have fancy cool business cards for everybody. And I feel like I speed ran that. So please ask me questions. Oh gosh, I'm so sorry. Hold on, I can fix it. Previous. I didn't.
It wasn't quite fast enough.
It's okay. No, I'm a kind of socially anxious person, and I've had coffee, so I'm going 1,000 miles per hour. It's fine.
We do have a question about, do tree service companies typically use arborists?
If it's a tree service company, they 1,000% should have an arborist. If you are dealing with a tree service company that does not have an arborist, I would not use them. I would not use them. That's, to me, somebody heard there was good money in tree work and they don't necessarily know what they're doing. More questions. Give me all of the questions.
Well, we have several, but if we were to have Alexis come out, she could see our questions.
I could, in fact, and that is actually the best way to ask questions about your personal trees. There is something I wanted to shout out here though today. So the Ohio Department of Agriculture right now is offering grants for people to have treatments done for hemlock woolly adelgid. I don't know if you guys are familiar with hemlock woolly adelgid or the folks at home. So it is kind of, I mean, it's been around for a while, but they were starting to have like rising concerns about it in the southern portion of Ohio. And it kind of looks like this like white fluff along the stems of your hemlocks. And it's one of the ones that's kind of scary. It can overtake your trees. It can cause mortality. So if you have concerns, you know you have hemlocks, you're in a wooded area, or there's a wooded area on your property, or you're abutted to a wooded area, absolutely reach out to the Ohio Department of Agriculture. They'll give you money to fix it. Well, you'll probably have to let them come again for like research purposes, but
You may have just answered, will an agricultural extension visit and evaluate trees or soil?
I believe they will. You would have to reach out. I don't work for an agricultural extension, so I cannot fully speak to them. I know you can send them samples. I know that they will send you the correct equipment to send them samples. I honestly think that for someone to come out sort of depends on proximity and staffing. So if they don't have enough people to send a person out, they will send you equipment and instructions. Or if you're like kind of really far away from the extension office, depending on the issue at hand. I mean, I really think it depends on what's on their radar, what issue you have, and whether or not they think you might be able to get the samples yourself. What was that face?
Just waiting on questions.
Oh, okay, please ask me questions. I have no idea how much time, I probably have a lot of time left. I talk really fast, guys.
When is the best time to get your trees pruned?
The best time to get your trees pruned is going to be a little bit variable. Yay, so we want to go, once we start getting below 50 degrees consistently and before Snowmageddon. And then after Snowmageddon, we want to get in there before it starts being that 50 degrees consistently. And that's not so much because of like tree dormancy itself as insect dormancy. So you want to try to do it during those times when you're not as as high of a risk of attracting those potential insect vectors. But again, emergencies happen, insurance companies throw fits, things happen, and sometimes you're just stuck with what you got.
So right now, what do you need?
Right now, we're in the window. Yeah, so now until here, I think our final frost date is usually in like mid-April. Is like prime time. The middle of summer is usually when people are busiest, just because people kind of start noticing their gardens in the spring. But I'd say like now and like October, November, depending, I mean, we've had some summers run late, I feel like in the last few years, but that like late October into early December, and then once we're clear of kind of the ice and the snow and the all that other stuff that makes everything 10 times more dangerous than it needs to be, we've got kind of a window between mid to late February and mid-April. Just make stuff up. Ask me anything. You can ask me, oh, it's 52. I didn't do as bad as I thought I did. We're good. We're good. I've managed to do almost 30 minutes.
What would you say is like, what's the prime time for planting?
Prime time for planting trees? Fall. You want to do it in, I would say, early fall, because it gives you a little bit of time for your tree to kind of establish before the frost hits. But if you try to do it in summer, you're gonna end up with this new baby tree that has transplant shock. And then it's 100 degrees outside. And you're gonna have a tree that struggles a little more to establish. They still can't establish when you plant in spring and summer. It's just easier on if you kind of let them ease into that. It's also true for birds. Well, that's the best.
Do you have a favorite like tree source?
Tree source?
Like if you're gonna go buy a tree.
There actually is like a really cool organic farm out in Indiana called Brambleberry Farm that does a lot of native specific. They don't just do trees, they also do a bunch of other native plants. And they're delightful. They're wonderful people. The last time I went there, I took my daughter and her friend, and they like let the kids run around. And when I recaptured the children, they were eating eggs that they got from one of the chickens that was just walking around and laid an egg. So they're wonderful. Natorp is a really common one around here. They do produce pretty good quality trees. Again, this gets into a point that I should add to this class. When you buy your trees to plant, check them. The nursery will get a little upset with you. That's okay, they're allowed. So you're gonna wanna, when you get a new tree, and like if it's a potted tree, you're gonna wanna try to like pull it out of the pot a little bit and check the roots and see if it's really heavily root bound. You wanna try to go for something that's not as heavily root bound, because it will require less input from you to be ready to put into the ground. If you have a bowl in burlap, you want to try to peel that burlap back and check that root ball. Bare trees just they're usually fine, but you want to check your roots because it'll give you an idea of like how hard it's going to be to establish. If you have like a really tight, knotted, overlapping root ball, you're going to have to cut away way more roots in order to get that kind of wagon wheel establishment at the beginning. And it's just a pain in the butt. It's just a pain in the butt. You could be getting a brand new brand new to you tree that already has a crippling problem. And you can also use that as an opportunity to check for root disease. So you can check to see if there's a bacterial infection in that root system. You can smell bacteria. If bacteria has overtaken the root system, they smell bad. And you can like kind of try to look to see if there's anything like fungal, look for any odd nodding or discoloration in the roots if you're able to. Again, they get mad when you start poking at the roots, but it's important to do. Like,
Your different opinions all the time. When you're planting like ball and burlap tree.
take the burlap and the wire off.
Okay.
That's what I would do. And I've had so many guys come out to plant. Oh, no. It'll break through it. And then we had to replace trees.
The roots will
When they
girdle
come
from
up,
the wire.
Burlap is still there, the roots are like.
It does not decay. The roots will get girdled by the wire. And you're putting garbage in the ground, all right? Like, I don't know,
It
maybe
made no sense to me when they said.
maybe it was just like the millennials that got the really aggressive don't litter propaganda, but like, you're littering, don't do it, take it out. Like, you're not crazy, you're perfect.
We did have some really, I mean, you probably familiar with clay soil around
Yes.
here.
Yeah,
It's like plant stuff. It's like putting it in a clay pot.
yeah, and it can be very scary. So what I like to do is before I put a tree in is rough up the edges of that planting hole. Because it does, when you're digging it out, it just gets like down on the side and it makes a wall. So I like to rough up the edges and like,
If you don't imagine.
no. It discourages the tree from seeking those resources elsewhere. And you end up with this like, so a tree is like a lever. And if you have a wide base on it, it's much more stable. Whereas if it's just standing on this, if any wind blows, she gone. Like,
A big question, will an arborist be able to evaluate a lot and determine which trees should be removed?
yes, absolutely. If you are, this does get a little finicky depending on like what the goals for the lot are, but if you call, again, a really good, reputable, knowledgeable arborist, and you let them know what your goals are with the property that you're looking at, they can absolutely help you figure out what can stay, what maybe needs to leave, what could possibly need to be worked around. I mean, a really good example right now is there's a property I was out on recently. They have a tree in a somewhat inconvenient place. It's not completely terrible, but it's somewhat inconvenient. It's also a very rare tree species. It's a butternut, which is the white walnut. Only one I've ever seen in person on a residential property. Very, very uncommon, even though it's one of our natives. So in that situation, I was like, don't touch it. Like, just work around it. You don't get these all the time. But had it been like a hacked area, I would have been like, okay, yeah, like we have like a million. Like,
We don't have any other questions, and all questions can always be emailed to Alexis afterwards.
Yeah, are you